Yesterday, Sayadaw explained that the proximate cause for knowledge to arise is samadhi. Samadhi concentration is the proximate cause. The factors that are supporting the samadhi are vitakka, vichara, piti and sukha, initial application, sustained application, joy and happiness. When one is noting the presently arising object, one has to aim and direct one's noting mind towards the object. Aiming, directing is vitakka, and it is also one of the jhanic factors. In noting the object, one should also exert ardent effort. One should exert ardent effort so that the noting mind will reach the object. If one does not have effort, one cannot note the object. In order to note, one should aim one's noting mind towards the object, and one should exert effort. Noting the object with aim and effort, the noting mind will be concurrent with the object. And Sayadaw gives an example of sewing two pieces of cloth together by hand stitching. When one stitches by hand, one has to make use of needle and thread. The needle pierces the two pieces of cloth, and the thread follows the needle, and the thread keeps the two pieces of cloth together. The needle and the thread keep two pieces of cloth connected, binded. It is called patipada. Two pieces of cloth are connected and binded by the thread. Vichara, sustained application. The mind is rubbing on the object. When vichara is present, the noting mind rubs onto the object, and the noting is effective, and one becomes certain of the object. So when the noting is effective, when the noting mind rubs onto the object, there will not be uncertainty. As the noting is effective, due to the rubbing of the noting mind towards the object, one becomes certain with the object. It is said that vichara is panya gatika, meaning vichara is similar to knowledge. In the text, there are mentioned 5 or 6 things that are similar to knowledge, and Sayadaw will not explain here. When it is said that vichara is similar to knowledge, it is reasonable seeing the nature of vichara. Having vichara, sustained application on the object, one is certain about the object, and thus there will not be uncertainty. If there is uncertainty, one will be having dim vagueness, not certain of the object. But when vichara is present, the noting mind rubs onto the object, and one becomes certain of the object, and vichara is similar to knowledge. Exerting effort in the practice, aiming the mind towards the object, the noting mind and the object become concurrent, the noting is effective, the mind pierces into the object, and piti, joy, arises, sukha, happiness, arises. When piti, sukha, when joy and happiness arises, one will not have any worry, but there will be peacefulness in the mind. When this happens, the mind will be light, malleable, adaptable, and it will become proficient in noting the object. At this stage, one also gains uprightness, one becomes straightforward. So at this stage, happiness arises, one feels very comfortable and happy, and samadhi, concentration, becomes strong. In noting the object with aim and effort, when khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, becomes strengthened, one can overcome nivarana, hindrances. When one develops khanika samadhi, momentary concentration, nivarana, hindrances are overcome, and the yogi removes more and more hindrances day by day. For yogis who are bright and who practices diligently, they progress within very short time. When concentration, momentary concentration is strong, kama chanda nivarana, sensual desire, cannot arise. Due to the momentum of practice, nivarana, hindrances, has no chance to arise. When the jhanic factors are present, each of these jhanic factors repel hindrances. So at this stage, yogi comes to see the advantages of one's practice. So it is not from reading books or it is not from teachers, but one experiences through his or her practice, seeing the advantages of practice. So one gains such benefits because of practicing according to the instructions given. When this happens, there will be pamoja, minor form of piti. Pamoja is also called dubbala piti, as it is the minor form of piti, minor joy. There are 5 kinds of piti, 5 kinds of joy. Khodaka piti is the minor joy. One experiences good flesh. It is khodaka piti. Khanika piti is the momentary joy. When one is at the beach, when the waves come in, one feels thrilled whether the wave will overwhelm the person. So this kind of thrilling piti is Aukandika piti. And Aukandika piti is also like feeling something, some kind of something draping or covering the person. So such kind of piti arise due to the removal of nivarana, hindrances. Ubeka piti is the kind of joy where one feels levitated. One feels as if one is in the air. It is Ubbeka Piti. Prana Piti is the pervading joy. When one feels Prana Piti, pervading joy, one does not even want to open the eyes. So these piti are experienced when one removes nirvana hindrances. In removing the nirvana hindrances, viriya, effort, is involved. Having viriya, one overwhelms laziness, and when one continues to practice, one experiences joy and satisfaction. When one continues practice, Paṇḍitā Piti Jayati, meaning when one develops minor joy also leads to a bigger form of piti. It is called Palava Piti. And one feels as if like sitting in the air, levitating, and one does not even want to open the eyes. At the stage of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, at the stage of knowledge, into fast arising and passing away, one experiences stronger form of piti. When one feels piti, there will be satisfaction, happiness. One feels peaceful both in the mind and the body. Even though the yogi may at first think that she will be sitting for 1 hour, but it turns out to be the 2-hour sit or 3-hour sitting meditation. So at this stage, the yogi experiences lightness of the mind, malleability of the mind, agility of the mind, proficiency of the mind, and the yogi becomes very skillful and proficient in the practice. When this happens, yogi also become upright and straightforward and very honest. So at this stage, yogi confesses his or her wrongdoing to the appropriate person. In the beginning, or the person may be someone who hides, conceals his or her weaknesses, but when the person reaches the stage of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, the person will no longer cover or hide his or her weaknesses. So at this stage, yogi confesses, admits of his or her wrongdoing, and the yogi gains honesty. Maya means pretending as if one is innocent, even though one may be guilty. Amayavi means not pretending of one's wrongdoings. So when one practices, when one reaches the stage of Uddiyabhaya Jnana, honesty is also developed, and some of the ones who have even committed murder or anything, they will confess at this stage. So even if there is no interrogation by the police, no investigation, but yogi will confess of his or her wrongdoing at this stage of Uddiyabhaya Jnana. When one feels light, malleable, adaptable, and proficient, one feels happy and very comfortable. So one feels the piti, the joy, oozing inside oneself. One feels cool, oozing kind of piti. So this is compared to the experience when the weather is hot and when one enters an air-conditioned room, it feels cool and comfortable. Experiencing piti, one also feels cooling, oozing, pervading kind of joy, and one also becomes happy. Having piti and sukha, the mind will not be agitated by raga, the mind will not be agitated by other defilements, but the mind will be calm, tranquil, one-pointed, collected, and unified. And one develops ekagata, one-pointedness of mind. Ekagata, one-pointedness of the mind, is samadhi, concentration. So it is said, Sukhino citta samadhiyati, meaning when one has joy and happiness, the mind becomes concentrated and one gains concentration. Kamachanda is the sensual desire, wanting to see good things, wanting to hear good sounds, wanting to smell good fragrance, wanting to eat good flavor, wanting to touch with good contact, good touch. Sensual desire is nirvana, hindrance. And Buddha contemplated nirvana, hindrances, by using 3 words. Nirvana, hindrances, hinder the wholesomeness from arising. When nirvana, hindrances are arising, wholesomeness has no chance to arise. Nirvana, hindrances hinder and obstruct so that the wholesomeness, wholesome deeds and bhavana cannot arise, and thus nirvana, hindrances are called nirvana, avarana, hindrances that hinder and obstruct wholesomeness from arising. When nirvana, hindrances are arising, they are like don't the wholesome deed arise, we will arise. So they are as if saying that we will arise, don't come. So in this way they are hindering, obstructing so that wholesomeness cannot arise. When nirvana, hindrances are present, the mind will not be pure or clean, and thus they are called cetaso upakilesa, as they pollute the mind. Knowledge arises only when the mind is pure and clean. When the mind is polluted, knowledge cannot arise. When nirvana, hindrances are present, knowledge cannot arise, and thus they are also called panyaya dopali karana, meaning they hinder and obstruct knowledge from arising, and they also weaken knowledge. When nirvana, hindrances are arising, knowledge does not arise at all, or even if knowledge arises, it will be weak kind of knowledge. So nirvana, hindrances hinder and obstruct so that knowledge does not arise at all, or it weakens the knowledge that has arisen. So Sayadaw says, someone who lacks practice, they will be overwhelmed by the nirvana hindrances for 24 hours. So his or her mind will be dirty, polluted, and his or her knowledge will be weak. So such kind of person who is overwhelmed by nirvana hindrances will have problems such as tension, stress, and depression. So such kind of nirvana hindrances are very bad, very polluted, very dirty. So one should remove these hindrances. One should weaken, remove, and suppress these hindrances. And one should remove and uproot the hindrances that are the worst. Removing, abandoning the opposite states, the hindrances, one should practice bhavana in order to remove these hindrances. These nirvana hindrances hinder and obstruct wholesomeness from arising, and they pollute the mind. They also weaken knowledge. If one is free from nirvana hindrances, one's mind will be pure and clean. If the mind is impure, one will not develop knowledge. When the mind is pure and clean, one can develop knowledge. In order to develop knowledge, one should practice to remove these hindrances. Buddha taught that nirvana hindrances are just like stream of current flowing continuously. They are also called as Kilesas. Apart from sleeping hours, when the person is awake, the person is constantly overwhelmed by these nirvana hindrances. So at the time the person is awake, the current of hindrances are flowing continuously. When one comes across desirable objects, just now craving arises. When one comes across undesirable objects, they are vyavada, ill will. They are only mind and matter, physical and mental phenomena, but one has wrong view, thinking that there is person, being, living soul, atta, and in this way, the ditthi, wrong view, current flows. So in this way, the nirvana hindrances are flowing continuously, just like a stream of current. Other defilements such as tina, mita, sloth and torpor, uddaca and kokoca, restlessness, worry, ahirika, anuttapa, lack of moral shame and lack of moral fear, they are arising. If one indulges in these defilements will overwhelm the person and one commits wrongdoing. One transgresses, committing kaya duccarita, bodily misconduct, vaci duccarita, verbal misconduct, and manodocarita, mental misconduct. Wanting to take other people's belongings by force, wanting to torment, torture, hurt others, having wrong view that good deeds do not bring good results, bad deeds do not bring bad results. These are mental misconduct. Not having faith and confidence in the things that are worthy of faith and confidence, having uncertainty, doubt, one is deviated from the right path and one commits wrongdoing. And also, there is delusion, ignorance, not knowing the truth, knowing wrongly. Committing wrongdoing, committing misconduct is also based on ignorance, delusion. So this happens as the person lacks faith and confidence in things that are worthy of faith and confidence. Not fulfilling the mental strength that are essential, one's mind will not be strong. And apart from sleeping hours, when the person is awake, the nirvana hindrances currents are flowing continuously. During the Buddha's time, one Brahmin came to the Buddha to ask 2 questions. So he asked how one should stop the current and how one should cut the current. And Buddha replied in a simple way, and Saraji will explain on this. So he asked the Buddha by reciting the verse, Savanti sabati sota, sotanan ke nivarana, sotanan savaran bruhi kena sota pidiyare. Meaning that everywhere the currents are flowing. And this Brahmin was telling the Buddha the situation of the beings. So the currents are flowing in the beings, and the Brahmin asked how one should weaken and hinder these currents. Kena sota pidiyare, meaning how one should totally remove the current. So this solution, the solution to these 2 questions are really essential, because people are having so many problems due to the current. At times the currents are flowing swiftly, at times the currents are flowing roughly, at times the currents are flowing extremely roughly, just like the water falling from the height. It's just like the cascade of waterfall. Beings have wrong view and they commit wrong things, such as sacrificing animals in order to worship, and they are claiming that their view are right. And at times they are indulging in aversion, hatred, grudge, and at times they are indulging in delusion, ignorance. And they lack moral shame and moral fear from wrongdoing, and thus they commit wrongdoings by body, speech and mind. They relish in physical, verbal, mental misbehavior. So these currents are flowing in great momentum. Everywhere these currents are flowing, and one should know how these current flows should be weakened, how these current flows should be totally cut. Buddha replied, Shani Sotani Lokasme Sati Tesa Nivarana Sotana Savaram Brumi Panyayete Pidiyare. Meaning that in the world, the beings, the currents are flowing greatly, continuously. In order to hinder the current flow, one should have sati, mindfulness. Sati, mindfulness, can hinder the current flow. One should have sati, mindfulness, on every arising object, as the yogis are practicing now. Yogis are practicing to note every arising object. One should protect one's mind by continuously mindful of every arising object, and one should note these objects with a jhanic factor, with sustained mindfulness. When noting the object with sustained mindfulness, sati, will become strong, and also other mental strength will also be developed. Sati, mindfulness, can hinder the flow of current. And Buddha also replied, Panyayete Pidiyare. By knowledge, one can totally stop the flow of current. Panya here means Vipassana Panya, insight knowledge, and Magga Panya, path knowledge. By developing insight knowledge and path knowledge, one can weaken and totally cut the flow of current. So in this way, Buddha replied that mindfulness can hinder the flow of current, and Panya, knowledge, can totally cut the flow of current. In the text, there are 5 categories of sota. The first one is Dasna Sota, ignorance current. Wanting to see, wanting to hear, wanting to smell, wanting to taste, wanting to touch good things. Craving is the first kind of sota. Second one is Ditthi Sota, wrong view current. What really exists is Nama and Rupa, the psychophysical phenomena. Not knowing that the Nama Rupa are the ones that really exist, one take it as being, person, living soul, Mahabrahma. These wrong views are Ditthi Sota. The third one is Kilesas Sota, defilement current, such as dosa, mana, anger, conceit. These defilements are the third kind of sota. The fourth one is Ducharita Sota. When one indulges in defilements, one commits misconduct by body, speech and mind. These misconducts are called ducharita sota. Misconduct current. The fifth one is avijja sota, ignorance current. Avijja means not knowing correctly, knowing wrongly. So these 5 currents are flowing continuously. And Sayadaw will continue to explain how these currents should be hindered, how these currents should be totally stopped. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.